This is the Our York Media Podcast, where we talk with the good news makers of York County, Pennsylvania. I'm your host, Rebecca Hanlon. This week's White Rose Award goes to Katie Hartman. When Katie started Human Library York several years ago, she brought together people from across our community to share their unique stories. Each person became a book on the shelf and told their story through conversations with those who visited the event. Some of those books became Neighbors features, while vice versa, some of our Neighbors of our York folks were invited to become books at one of Katie's events. With a fresh look and new excitement, Human Library York is now one-to-one, and we're excited to see all of the stories Katie will be telling this year through her endeavor. Do you know of someone in York who deserves a little recognition? Nominate them for a White Rose. Visit ouryorkmedia.com and you'll find a nomination form under our podcast page. Today we're sitting down with Angie Garrison. As a community connector and a volunteer, Angie is probably most known for her recent trips to Puerto Rico, where she's taken supplies to those still trying to recover from hurricanes that wrecked the island years ago. We're excited to have her on today to learn a little bit more about why she does it. Angie, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
So one of the things we're asking everybody when they come on is, why is York home for you?
Why is York home for me? I can trace my family back to around 1736.
Oh, that's very specific.
Immigrating here from Germany. So my family roots are extremely deep and strong in York. So that's one of my biggest connections here of why is family.
It goes very deep.
Mm-hmm.
Very nice.
Deep.
That's exciting. So I kind of want to jump right into it because you actually came back from a recent trip.
Correct.
To Puerto Rico.
3 weeks ago?
Okay.
Weeks ago?
I'm sure it's very rainy and cloudy here today. I'm sure it was a little nicer there.
We get a lot of rain there.
Yeah?
Yeah, especially in the mountain areas.
So how many trips have you made to Puerto Rico now?
Oh, this was my 5th or 6th trip.
Okay. What started it for you?
I've always been into giving back. Even when my girls were smaller, I was more... I couldn't do as much with the traveling, being a mom of small kids. So I started out with, after 5 years old, they didn't have birthday gifts. They got to pick from 3 different charities that I would give them. And their friends would give off the wish list from those charities. My oldest daughter, I remember, she wanted to save whales. Whale wars on Animal Planet was like a big show, and she loves marine life. So she raised like $300, and she was so super excited, about that. So that goes on till today is that giving back. And now that they're older, they're 18 and 13. Mom can travel more and do more. I started with Hurricane Irma, flying supplies into Marathon, into Key West.
Okay.
And then a few weeks later, Maria hit to Puerto Rico. I have some community members that were, looking to raising money and sending supplies, and I jumped on board with that right away, feet first, and it just organically came from there.
What was the reason for it for you? I mean, did you have a personal connection? What spoke to you that you said, I'm going to take this on, I'm going to be the one to really help people there?
At first, Delma Rivera and Linda Diaz. Delma had raised quite a bit of money from her church and other donors, and we had all this money, and we're talking back and forth, and I had always been... Charities are great, but when you give money, you don't always get to see where the dollar's being spent, and you don't get to hear the personal stories of who it's affecting and who it's helping. And she has her grandmother's home there, and Linda had to go and see her TT, who had just had a double mastectomy in the States and went back to her house in Puerto Rico.
Oh, wow.
And I had the time, and I was like, well, I'll go. And we were like Charlie's Angels, and we followed the need. We got a lot of messages regarding help that was needed, and we just kept following it. And it was one of the best weeks of my life with those two just amazing, strong, incredible women showing the way, and then it built from there. I gained a lot of personal relationships from the people that I had met, and I get a lot of questions of why Puerto Rico? Are you Puerto Rican? Are you dating a Puerto Rican? Like, all these like questioning me because I'm the blonde-haired, blue-eyed, German girl from Dover, Pennsylvania. And my family upbringing is so similar to the Latinx community. Family is everything. You coming to dinner on certain days of the week, and just getting together, and that strong family functionality. Yeah. So when I went down there and I'm meeting everybody and I'm seeing, how wrong all of this is and the suffering that was happening, it was so easy for me to relate. What if this was my family? What if these were my grandparents, my great-grandparents, my cousins, having my grandmother was one of 10 children, so I have an extremely large family. What if it was them? And I could relate so much to that emotional portion of it. And just getting to know certain families that I had helped, I needed to keep going back and checking on them. And as that grew and I kept going back, I would get text messages and messages on Facebook. It wasn't, when are you coming back? It was, when are you coming home? Oh. So Puerto Rico, it is my home. So people might look at me differently and think that I might not belong, but for Puerto Ricans, they're blonde hair, blue-eyed as can be, and as brown hair, brown, dark skin as can be. It's the entire spectrum of being Puerto Rican, and I take that very, very seriously, that they are my family and I am part of theirs as well. Yeah.
How do trips compare from, when you first went down there to your more recent ones in terms of what you're seeing and what the need is that people still have?
From when I first went down, it was February after the hurricane had hit in September. So that was about 5-6 months out. And it was, when your Christmas tree gets really brittle and all the pine needles start coming off of the branches and how dead it looks. That's how the entire vegetation of that island looked. Just everything was ripped down to the bark, and it looked very desolated. A lot of blue tarps, and to this day there's still a lot of blue tarps. People just living in a way that they can't drink the water. The water's contaminated. They can't drink from their wells. And it's very disturbing to me, being, they are American citizens, just like Hawaii or Alaska. And for whatever reason, it's the education isn't behind that. So when I keep going back and I keep seeing bridges out, roads not fixed, buildings collapsing, homes with tarps on it, it's very hurtful and disturbing, because we would not in the States live like that, but we're allowing our people who serve in our military and basically our American brothers and sisters to live like this.
Tell us about some of the people that you've met. What is the most memorable exchanges or relationships?
For this past trip that I just had a few weeks ago, or just in general?
Sure, or what stood out to you?
Not having basic necessities when I go there, and when I return in my trips and I go and visit and bring adult diapers or sheets or whatever the need may be for certain families, they're just so, every memory I have there, they're so happy and they're so grateful. They don't complain, which they should be complaining. But they're just such a giving, just beautiful people, that every time I go back to those families, I mean, that's my best memory that I take back, and feeling that when I come home, it keeps wanting me to go back and make sure that they're okay.
Who are the individuals that you think you keep in touch with the most? You say you go home, so they're family, right?
Correct. Yeah, I have a lot of different houses on the island to stay. So depending on what's going on what portion of the island, I just make a phone call and I'm like, hey, I'm coming down for this. And, I bunk at somebody's house that I know, which is truly amazing and a blessing within itself. But I don't know. I think the elderly as well, how they're living. We have elderly that we don't have time to take care of them, so we go and we put them in a home. Down there, they're kind of just left. So if they have Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, those types of things, there's different members in the community that seem to take care of those people as much as they possibly can while they're taking care of their families. So I get a lot of messages from them. I need this, I need that. And even from the safety of my house, I can, what is your need for this? And I can, thankfully, within the York community, have been very blessed with people. I get a lot of Walmart gift cards. Walmart delivers for free down there. To ship to Puerto Rico is extremely expensive.
Sure.
And it takes a long period of time to get there. It's not Amazon Prime here where you get it the next day.
Yeah.
It could take 7 to 10 days, and they need the supplies right away in many situations. So I can sit with a Walmart gift card and have that delivered for free to the different people that I know down there, and then they'll deliver it for me.
That's good to know.
So they might not have the funding and the resources, but I have the people all over the island that I've made very good friends with and that are like family to me, and they take care of it. They relay the messages to me, and then I try to fulfill it as much as possible.
How do you see this fitting into your life going forward?
That's a good question. It's organically always changing for me, because what started out as I've always, even with my immediate family, we've done Relay for Life for 10 years. My family's raised over $100,000 together for the American Cancer Society. So it's my way of giving is always evolving. I'm starting my own nonprofit. That way I'm not begging for money the way I'm having to do right now. When something hits, I can apply for grants and different things like that. To cover that. So I will be focusing on veterans, families with small children, and the elderly will be my main focus. And it's called Off-Grid Disaster Relief, and it's exactly what the name says. I go into the most remote off-grid places and help those people in need.
Wow, that's exciting.
And it is very exciting.
Built that off of this experience that you've had.
Correct. Yeah.
How do you connect this to York? To your home here, to your community? How do you connect these things that you're doing that seems so distant?
Well, I think I'm different because, say you give me $10, with me posting on my social media, you get to see where your money's being spent.
Sure.
You get to hear from the families. You get to see a face and put that together. See all the supplies every time I'm going to Kmart, Walmart, wherever that may be, the grocery store. And the people that give to me have relayed that they feel a connection now with these families instead of the Red Cross is amazing and great, but it's you write a check and that personal connection is not there, where I'm going out into the field and posting what's really going on.
What do you think that other people can do to help in this situation or in similar ones? Because this won't be the only thing, and it won't be the first time.
I think aid is a bandage for Puerto Rico. What Puerto Rico really needs is we need our congressmen and women, our senators, to really act. We do know that there's a problem with their government. Okay, there's a problem. How are we going to solve that? There was an earthquake. There was a hurricane. The bandage of giving them tents and supplies and tarps it's not sustainable. What is getting people back into their houses? What is getting the infrastructure fixed? What is that really going to take? and not just, like my grandpa used to do with some rubber bands and some duct tape and just fix something. That's not longevity, and that's not going to last. So, making that phone call, it doesn't take much. Writing a letter and really just being vocal of this is not right, and this should not be. That's a big step. And how are we going to fix the problem? We can complain about the problem all day long. We're not getting anywhere. It's like taking medication for something. That's just masking the issue. How are we going to fix the issue? So that's what I'm trying to focus on, is how are we going to fix this?
Yeah. You obviously had a life of being involved, of looking for things that you can help with. Do you think anything has meant as much to you as this has?
I think everything that I get involved with, there's a personal connection with everything that I do. Unfortunately, I'm one person, and there's some things that I have to say no to, which really hurts my heart a lot. I don't like to say no when it comes to certain things, which especially charity work and nonprofits and giving back. But I would say, I'm very, very passionate about Puerto Rico, Puerto Ricans in general, and just its humanity. I think that the media and certain aspects of politics, and even within ourselves, we like to divide each other. And what I saw personally going to Puerto Rico and having that experience is there is no division. They are my family just as much as my blood family. I am as much as their family. When I came into their house, they didn't look at me differently because I looked different than them. I think we really need to stop focusing on that, on our differences, and come together of, you know what, you're just like me, because we're all humans and we all need to come together in this, and stop letting outside voices separate us and silo us as American citizens and as human beings.
Well, I'm excited to see what you do next.
Thank you.
And I hope that your nonprofit gains the traction that it needs to make a bigger impact, because I think as a one-woman show, you've been able to do a lot. So it'll be really interesting to see what you're able to do with other things. So keep us posted.
I will.
Thanks, Angie.
Thank you.
Before we end, have we mentioned how grateful we are that you're spending time with us? Each time you listen, download, or even better, subscribe to our podcast, you're helping support us in our mission to give York something better to talk about. For more information on Our York Media and our Good News Initiative, you can visit ouryorkmedia.com. The Our York Media podcast is produced by Will Hanlon and Ken Brueggemann. I'm Rebecca Hanlon. Thanks so much for listening.